So you became a patient of our office 3 years ago, and your diagnosis was stage 4 endometrial cancer with metastasis and cachexia. So cachexia, for those who don't know, that means is basically the death cycle, where you can eat a lot of food, but you still lose weight, your body's falling apart. And people can get cachexia through cancer, or they can get it even through heart attacks. And here you are 3 years later, all the cancer is gone, you're back to a good state of health. When you first became a patient, Dr. Amanda came to me and she goes, I got this patient with cancer and mets and cachexia. What do I do? And my answer to her was, well, the famous doctors of the 1900s who would save people's lives, like they would show up at the deathbed and they'd give people, their secret was raw animal food. So Dr. Mayo of the Mayo Clinic, he had the raw milk diet. Dr. Weston A. Price would use what's called June butter. When the cows eat grass in June, the grass is growing really fast. That butter was orange. He would have June butter plus cod liver oil combined.
She told me to do 24 eggs every third day. And on the other days, do at least 12. And ultimately what I was doing 16 eggs on the other days and 24 on the every third day. But again, I got to keep the carbs. I was told, keep my carbs below 5 grams. So I created a concoction of the eggs, MCT oil, because I had been taking MCT oil for just kind of Alzheimer's prevention for a long time in my smoothies. So I thought it was just a good idea still. Coconut cream, some lemon juice, vanilla, some water, some ice, and I top it all with nutmeg in the end. So I made kind of an eggnog. And so I still take that every day. I'm doing a 6-egg version once a day right now, and then 6 raw cooked eggs still. But at the peak, I was doing 3 8-egg smoothies a day, and then the other 2 days I was doing 2 of the smoothies a day. And then as much beef, although cooked. Luckily nobody told me I had to do raw meat.
It makes sense. It is maybe shocking for people to hear this, but if you understand the role or the function of mitochondria, cellular function, and the nutrients that they need, and ketosis versus cachexia, also known as lactic acidosis, everything that you're saying completely makes sense to reverse the worst, scariest diagnosis that anybody could possibly ever have.
When I first went to Michigan, the first thing that Dr. Childress worked on was actually not the cancer. It was, I had vinyl chloride in my kidneys. And so she had to get that taken care of so that then I'd be able to respond better.
And in order to restore function, it does take 2 things. Number 1, detox, or get rid of the bad stuff. Number 2, put in the good things.
And had learned that, how most of us, if you're breathing, you have parasites. So I've been on the Cellcore products like Para 1, Para 3 for quite a while, and I'm cycling it. Again, she tests me and sees that I'm making progress towards getting rid of these, just like I'm making progress on the Lyme.
You just let the muscle testing direct your path.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And I mean, it's not just directing the path, but it's also getting very specific with exactly what supplements and dosing that your body wanted at the time.
But when you talk about tests too, at one point with the cholesterol, I was at 711. I think Dr. Childress said that was the top she's seen for her patients.
So liver, gallbladder dysfunction. I know LDL cholesterol can be antiviral, so the body might bump up LDL to kill a virus. But it's probably more like the liver dysfunction.
I got a CT scan. The conversation was interesting because I kept digging in, trying to get the, say, okay, is it a clear scan? Am I cancer free? It was like they didn't want to say that. And then finally said, well, okay, yeah, it is good. Then yes, it must be that the cancer's gone. And she said it starts the 5-year clock, probably like a year and a half.
Okay. Okay. Now, in the last 3 years, drugs, chemo, radiation, did you do anything conventional in the last 3 years?
No. Now, when I went to the oncologist shortly after the first visit with Dr. Amanda, the oncologist wanted me to do surgery almost immediately before I got too weak for the surgery, and wanted to do 2 types of chemo. He at first didn't tell me I'm stage 4. I had to ask him, okay, what stage am I? He also used the word palliative. He was hoping I didn't actually know what that meant, so I had to draw it out of him. Okay, will any of this save my life? And he's, no, it will make you more comfortable while you die. Which
Right.
I don't see how surgery and 2 types of chemo is going to make me comfortable.
Picture the viewpoint of an oncologist. They use drugs, chemo, surgery, radiation, and the results are horrible.
Yes.
And that's their life every day. Let's say they're working 5 days a week, and they get the next patient in front of their face, the next patient, the next patient. And it's a horrible life to be the doctor that can only give drugs. And so picture any oncologist in the country saying to any cancer patient, okay, pick your raw animal food. Will it be liver, eggs, raw milk? Like what do you have an appetite for? Okay, so you're gonna pick the raw eggs. Great, 12 a day. Go. Start now, 12 a day. Like this doesn't fly. It's not our culture.
He wouldn't even discuss about, I didn't know about the raw eggs at the time, but he wouldn't discuss about ketosis. There were several things I asked him that he just said, not standard of care, not standard of care.
Exactly.
So he's okay with telling me what we can offer you is going to kill you, not save you. But the idea of like, I know that there are some oncologists who work with a patient in terms of like, doing fasting before doing chemo, that kind of thing. This was not that kind of doctor. And I even asked him, like, are you aware of cancer being metabolic? And are you aware of Dr. Thomas Seyfried's work? And he's like, I think I've heard the name.
And we're going back to all the doctors, all the medical students in 1932 had these conversations that we're having right now. And then by 1961, it was all gone. And I picked that year for various historical reasons, but in the 70s and the 80s, what horrible decades for healthcare. But just in the late 90s and then into the 2000s, then people started talking about ketosis more. Anyways, big pharma has played a huge role in creating the loss, destroying the information that was, well known before World War II and well used before World War II. So when people get cancer diagnosis, and they get the scans, they get the blood tests, and then they reverse it with ketosis, I've had these patients say to me, well, I went back to the doctor, now I'm better, the scans are better, or they're gone, or whatever. And the doctors say, oh, our diagnosis was incorrect at the time.
The first year I saw my normal MD that I've gone to for decades, I said, okay, am I supposed to be dead? And she said, yes. And I tried to tell her what I was doing and where I was going. And she seemed concerned that you were ripping me off, that taking advantage of a sick woman. And my thought was, it had been a year at that time, and I was still alive when I wasn't expected to be. The following year, it was, basically, I'm happy you're still alive, keep it up. But it wouldn't do her any good. Her thought is that to know what I was doing, because her patients wouldn't do it anyway.
And the reason why it's easy for her to not know is because of the license. For her to say to a patient, okay, ketosis and take some calcium supplements, like that is so out of their license. Now she can get in trouble with her board. Her coworkers and associates can make fun of her and say bad things about her. And so she's got to stay totally in line, sort of like.
Yes. And if somebody asks, well, why, if you're in Iowa, do you go all the way to Michigan? Iowa's considered a standard of care state. And that means like naturopaths are illegal. I was using the sauna, the Therasage sauna for a long time, and I still am. I do that just about every day. And in the beginning, I would actually see signs that I was getting things out because
Like what?
I would leave color, like when I step out, I would leave colors on the towels. Um, just and when I was especially sick, it 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 was a way to help myself. And some of these things, again, I think it helped with the detox, but it also sometimes was helpful just having something that I could control myself. The other thing I had done previous to that was, I think we talked about a little bit, that I had taken care of my teeth in 2017, which I think was also, from what I read, key in probably helping my health.
Yeah, right. What, so
Because
give us details, like what did you do for your teeth?
I went to somebody that followed Hal Huggins protocol, and so got my root canals removed and got my cavitations cleaned out and all the mercury removed safely.
Yeah.
I did the follow-up with vitamin C IVs. I did hyperbaric oxygen at that time. So from what I've read, that probably also is part of help save me. I was worried about arthritis first because I was getting it in my hand, and my MD and my chiropractor had said, well, you're just getting old, and that happens. And what I'd read said, no, that's inflammation. And so you need to take care of, get rid of the grains and the sugars. And so I was changing my diet to help the arthritis, which had helped a great deal. I stopped having the problem in my hand. I also do the Rife, which when I along my road, I got a bad what I assume is a bacterial infection that I just couldn't seem to shake. And the Rife made it so that I was able to sleep through the night again. And so I've used that constantly ever since I got it for helping with the bacterial infection, helping with the Lyme, helping with the parasites. The other thing I wanted to mention was about the ascites that I had too, because that was
Ascites meaning fluid retention in the gut.
yes, and that was the first sign that I really had a problem. I mean, I had bloating and I looked pregnant, but that was one of the first signs that about the cancer, and had a CT scan that showed the fluid, and then I had to go get the fluid pumped out, which not a very pleasant experience, but they took 5 liters out of me the first time. And that was part of also the oncologist saying, you're not going to get that stopped without, like doing the surgery. And when I'd read about ascites, a lot of most people have it because of liver, but you can have it for all kinds of reasons. And I kept trying to look for what is the real underlying cause for it. It seems to be tied to the albumin.
If you have like too much or too little protein in various compartments in your body, it can collect or disperse water. So it's a protein imbalance. Now, in conventional medicine, there's that hyper focus on micro things like albumin. So yeah, so there's an albumin problem, you get ascites. Now what? Do you add or remove albumin? No, you fix the organs. And then how do you fix the organs? Well, you got to fix the cells. How do you fix the cells? You got to fix the mitochondria. And that's where the raw eggs come in. That's where ketosis and fasting comes in.